Battlefield 6 Season 2 details for you guys today. A few days ago, EA and Battlefield Studios gave me access to Season 2 early, and today I'm allowed to tell you all about the content that's coming. In the near future, I'll be able to show you gameplay of Season 2 and give my impressions of that content, but for now, we'll just stick to what's coming. Season 2 of Battlefield 6, for the most part, delivers a similar level of content to Season 1. 2 new multiplayer maps, 4 new primary weapons, 1 new secondary weapon, a few new vehicles, and a bunch of limited time modes and events. The season will be split up into 3 separate phases, the first of which is called Extreme Measures, and it brings us the first of the 2 new maps, Contaminated. This is the map that you've already seen in the teaser, released a couple of days ago, and now in the trailer that's just dropped. Set in the European mountainside of Germany, Contaminated takes place within an airbase set across rocky terrain. The map has some pretty changeable elevations in it, multiple inside bunker areas, and a skybox that supports helicopters. No jets on this map. The map plays host to the first limited time mode of the season, called VL7 Strike. This mode adds a hallucinogenic gas to areas of the contaminated map that causes you to experience visual and auditory hallucinations while you're inside the gas cloud. To stop these hallucinations, you need to equip your gas mask, which will be an active additional tool available to every player during the event. It's sort of like an extra gadget, essentially. Unlike BF1, however, which was the last game to feature a functioning gas mask mechanic in Battlefield, you won't be limited to hip fire only. You can ADS with your gas mask on. From the overview I was shown, the gas mask appears to have multiple uses affixed to it, with the HUD icon in the bottom right corner having a countdown timer and a number next to it, likely referencing that after a certain amount of use, you'll have to change the filter and then reapply the gas mask. Alongside the new map, this Extreme Measures phase of Season 2 will also bring 3 new primary weapons to Battlefield 6. The VCR-2 assault rifle, that's the VHX that we last saw in Battlefield 2042. The M121A2 machine gun, essentially the MG5 machine gun, the successor to the popular MG4 that we last saw in Battlefield 4. And the GRT CPS, a new DMR that appears to have a pretty fast rate of fire and a larger magazine by default, and it's designed for mid to long range combat. There's also 2 new gadgets being added with Phase 1 Extreme Measures. The Igla is returning to Battlefield, your guided missile launcher from past modern titles. This is for the Engineer class. And then there's the HTI Mark II. It's a new recon gadget that can detect enemy gadgets, suppress enemy recon drones, and can blow up incoming enemy rocket rounds. Sounds pretty interesting. And then we're seeing the return of the AH-6 Little Bird, a chopper that, if we're being honest, should have been in Battlefield 6 at launch. But it's here now in Season 2. This is being added to several maps in the game, not just the new Season 2 map Contaminated, but that map has been designed with the Little Bird in mind. The Extreme Measures phase of Season 2 runs from February 17th to March 17th, a full month's worth of time, and personally, I think they're starting on the wrong foot here by not having 2 maps ready to go at the launch of the season. But perhaps the team at Battlefield Studios are thinking that because this season only has 2 new maps in total, having both at the very beginning would leave very little content for the remaining 2 phases. I must sound like a broken record to you guys, but I'm going to keep beating this drum. 2 maps per season, it's just not good enough. Battlefield is all about maps, all about locations, new biomes to fight in. By not having enough per season, you limit the reasons for people to return to the game. Limited time modes, variations, modifiers of existing content isn't as appealing as a brand new map to fight on. Okay, moving on to Phase 2 of Season 2. This is called Nightfall. Nightfall brings Season 2's second new map, Hagental Base, a night mode limited time event, night vision goggles, another new vehicle, and 2 new weapons. So to start things off, we'll talk about the map, the most important thing, Hagental Base. This takes place below the contaminated map, under the mountainside that you can see in the distance, and we're looking at a close quarters, claustrophobic environment that's going to be, I think, somewhat reminiscent of other interior/meat grinder maps from the past, like Operation Metro, Operation Locker, and Operation Underground. The map, from the overview that I got to see, is an underground bunker that's like full of jets and other vehicles that are either completely assembled or are being assembled away from prying eyes. The lighting looks particularly contrastful down here, and I can only imagine how people are going to try and use the dark areas and shadows to exploit Battlefield 6 already very troubling soldier lighting. And speaking of that, I mentioned a night mode event. During Nightfall, Hagenthal Base will have most of its lights turned off, and soldiers will be handed NVGs, night vision goggles, and will be able to play on a remixed version of the map that plunges it into darkness. You're finally going to have a proper reason to use those thermal scopes and flashlights in Battlefield 6 that you can attach to your weapons. With the NVGs on, light sources will become blinding, and with the map offering close quarters infantry gameplay, there's going to be a big incentive to run those flashlights. I noticed in the overview that the NVGs essentially mimic the gas masks from Extreme Measures. They've got a timer applied to them. That must be some sort of battery level, I think. That means you won't be able to run with the NVGs on permanently. You're going to have to take them off and think a bit more strategically sometimes. The two new weapons coming during the Nightfall phase are the CZ-3A1 submachine gun, the Scorpion Evo, and the VZ-61 fully automatic pistol. The CZ has a really fast rate of fire, making it perfect for the new Hagenthal base map with its infantry gameplay, and the VZ pistol will make for an interesting secondary. I think it's the first fully auto option to make its way into Battlefield 6. The new vehicle coming during Nightfall is the dirt bike. This makes a return from Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, and will be added onto several of the existing maps in Battlefield 6, as well as the new Contaminated map. It's a two-seater, so the driver can cart around a teammate who might be able to pull off some kills from the back seat, but it does look extremely maneuverable from what I got to see in the overview. The BF4 dirt bike, that was great for moving from point to point very quickly in Conquest, and BF Studios say it will be added to some of the larger BF6 maps that currently exist, so I'm expecting to see it on like Mirak Valley, Liberation Peak, and Operation Firestorm at the very least. Nightfall is running from March 17th to April 14th, constituting another entire month of Season 2, with just one new multiplayer map and a limited time mode to keep people engaged. As I said earlier, it's just not enough content in my opinion. And then we have Phase 3, Hunter Prey it's called, running from April 14th to the end of the season. The overview didn't specify an end date for the season, but if we go by the length of the first two phases, it will probably be another full month, so that likely means Season 2 ends in mid-May. Hunter Prey is the lightest of the three phases in Season 2 in terms of content, featuring, well, not a lot based on the overview. Operations, the game mode introduced with Battlefield 1 and loved by the community, is returning in Season 2, but only as a limited time mode. Just why? There will be more portal updates with this phase, a new bonus path for the Battle Pass, the new LTV vehicle, and the machete melee weapon. And that's everything that's been confirmed for this phase so far. Operations is obviously the highlight of it, and it will link the two Season 2 maps, Contaminated and Hagenthal Base, into a single flowing narrative. Players will start the operation called Operation Augur on Contaminated, and they'll fight above ground across that map, pushing the defenders, Pax Armata, back into the underground Hagenthal Base. So the operation starts with your more classic all-out warfare fighting, combined arms, vehicle and infantry mixing together, and then the second part pares it down and turns into full infantry combat underground. The overview mentions that the VL7 gas from the first part of Season 2 will be present in the operation. That's likely to fit into the narrative of NATO trying to recapture their lost airbase from Pax Armata. Now, you'll have noticed that I haven't mentioned REDSEC once so far. That's because, well, it doesn't really feel like Season 2 has much of a focus on it, and I can't really say that I'm surprised by that. Despite myself really wanting a proper Battlefield Frostbite engine battle royale to come out and take off, REDSEC just didn't do that. It wasn't ready at launch, the map isn't very inspiring, the combat doesn't feel very satisfying because it's running on dynamic 30Hz tick rate servers, and quite honestly, REDSEC just isn't that good. Season 2 does feature some new REDSEC content, including a new POI called the Defense Testing Complex, but I saw no footage of that during the overview. There's also two new Gauntlet missions being added, one called Altered State that features the VL7 gas, and the other is called Nightfall, and it makes use of those NVGs. And there's also a Battle Royale LTM called Synthesis that will run during Phase 1, likely adding the VL7 gas to the Fort Linden map. But beyond that, I can't really see much more that's happening with REDSEC during Season 2. So I'm going to give my full honest opinion here. If I were in charge at Battlefield Studios, I'd put REDSEC, if it's possible, back into like a beta state, work on it behind the scenes, bring it up to the quality standard that people expect, If there's a way to give 60 Hz servers there, that would be amazing in terms of combat. It would just make the game feel so much smoother. Add in all that content that you planned for Season 2, even Season 3. I'm sure there's POI changes that were planned for the Battle Royale map in Season 2 and Season 3. Add all of that onto the map, get it all ready to go, and then, like, give it a big relaunch in September at the start of Season 4. Whenever the start of Season 4 is, just go for that and give it a real shot at the end of the first year of Battlefield 6. Put some marketing drive behind it and just go for it again. REDSEC, as it stands right now, is just not appealing enough of a product, and I think the only way to really improve it, and improve it in the eyes of the general public, is to give it the time it actually needs and to come back strong in the future instead. So that's your overview for Battlefield 6 Season 2, and quite honestly, I am disappointed yet again. It's just not enough content. Battlefield has historically struggled with its switch to live service, but I really thought this might be the game to crack it. They had an open goal with Call of Duty having so much negative sentiment around it and so much fatigue. Battlefield 6 can step in and take that attention and run with it. Push content out, keep people engaged, essentially turn those Call of Duty fans into Battlefield fans. But that's just not happened whatsoever. I find it incredible that they've missed this open goal. Lessons from the past just simply have not been learned. 2 maps per season is simply not enough. At an absolute minimum, we should be getting 3 maps per season, 1 per month, to fit into each phase that each season so far has been split up into. But this is now 2 seasons in a row that won't deliver on that, and we have this 3rd phase that's full of filler content that doesn't keep people engaged. I've said in the past that the bar has been set by previous titles in the franchise that used a DLC system. Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. They delivered 4 maps each time every 3 months, along with several new weapons to unlock and vehicles to unlock and master. Now, Season 2 has changed the setup of weapons from Season 1. They're going to deliver 1 more primary weapon and 1 less secondary weapon, but I can't really say that's exciting me that much because we're not getting any more maps to use them on. I think the weapons themselves look quite interesting, but I'm looking for more from each season, and there's just not enough content in each one right now to keep me engaged with Battlefield 6. And that's what's really disappointing. Phase 3 of the season is once again really devoid of any new proper content. Not having a 3rd map leaves that phase feeling very, very empty. And then, using elements like Operations to fill that gap doesn't really help when Operations in itself is currently being described as a limited time game mode. That's really disappointing. I think we're witnessing a very dangerous shift in Battlefield's DNA. In fact, we're seeing the product of it now, because this is the 3rd game in a row where we're witnessing almost the same thing. The transition away from a game that you play for fun, it sounds stupid even saying that, games should be fun, to a game that feels like a chore to play. Instead of giving us the maps and the weapons and the vehicles that define the series and the gameplay that we've come to know and love, EA, Battlefield Studios, the dev team, whoever, are funneling resources into pathways that are just designed to keep you logged into the game for as long as possible, hoping you'll eventually buy a cosmetic item and they'll get their monetary return. This, for me, this is not a content strategy at all. It's almost like a psychological one. But you can only cover up this lack of real content with events and battle pass grinds for so long before the community realizes. And let's face it, I think we've all realized it. I think we saw what was happening with Season 1. That set the precedent for Battlefield 6, and look, Season 2, it follows the same blueprint. I think when the grind becomes the product rather than just part of the experience, that's where fatigue really sets in. And that leads to what we're seeing right now, this large negative outcry to what's happening to Battlefield 6. All that goodwill and excitement from the open beta, that's gone. Completely wasted. What we have now is an increasingly desperate situation for Battlefield 6, and we've got a dwindling player base that is really starting to not come back at all.